and welcome to the Climate Voices podcast. This is your host, Tomesa Mukaya. I'm excited to welcome you to yet another episode of the Climate Voices podcast, where we're highlighting stories and success stories of people who have been passionate about environmental justice and fighting for climate justice. And today I'm excited to welcome you to the Voices of the Future series, the special series that we're dedicating to young people, especially teenagers and high school going students who are involved in the environmental and climate organizing, sharing and highlighting their success stories. And after a short break, I'm happy to say that we are back. And so today I'm excited to welcome an amazing and remarkable young environmental justice leader that has been doing a lot of amazing stuff in environmental organizing. And because she's part of young people that are leading the way in preserving our environment and protecting our environment and making sure that we have a sustainable planet. So joining us today on this episode of the Voices of the Future series is a remarkable high school student, Christina Mui from Winchester High School, who is a passionate advocate of environmental organizing and environmental justice, and currently a member of the Youth Action Collaborative, working as an alumni liaison or coordinator because she took part in the Youth Action Collaborative that is spearheaded by Clean Water Action. So welcome to the show, Christina.
Thank you for welcoming me.
Yeah, Christina, your journey in environmental organizing and your drive to fight for environmental justice at such a young age is nothing short of inspiring. And so today we'll do a little, deep dive into the world of youth activism and try to discover what the next generation of leaders like yourself are doing to make our world sustainable and our planet sustainable. And before we dive into the conversation, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and, highlight what sort of activated you or sparked your interest in environmental organizing at such a young age?
Yeah, sure. My name is Christina Mui, and I've actually been interested in the environment ever since I was in sixth grade. Funny story. I was doing a debate in social studies about what the Brazilian government is doing with the Amazon rainforest, and I was debating for the natives of the Amazon rainforest against the loggers. And I remember it was the first time I realized how even with environmental concerns, there are also a lot of factors inhibiting what we can do about the environment, because it's not as easy as, oh, you could just replant more trees. It's not as easy as you could just make everyone agree with you. There's also other factors such as policies and people wanting to build more houses. So there's a lot of land being cleared in the Amazon rainforest, a lot for civilizations to build and for wood resources. So that got me very interested. That first got me very interested in the environment. So for what sparked my interest in environmental organizing, it wasn't just the debate, of course, but I also had a really amazing 8th grade teacher. She guided me through that there's so many different perspectives, and even if you don't agree with everyone, it's important to understand different perspectives and take that into consideration when making decisions, because that's what leads to a lot of consequences. For example, a lot of environmental situations, if you were to only consider the environmental impacts but not consider environmental solutions without considering who has access to those solutions, then that isn't very fair and equitable to everyone. So that's something I've learned to keep in mind.
Yeah, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. You have mentioned about how you got yourself in this journey, but is there that one pivotal moment in your environmental organizing journey? Since you said you started at a very young age, but is there that one moment that you still keep remembering that, this is what kept you glued towards continuing to fight for environmental justice and making sure that everyone has the benefit of, living in a sustainable planet, or to make sure that we protect the environment, not the present, but also for the future generations, especially for young people like yourself?
Yeah. When I was part of the Youth Action Collaborative program, I got this opportunity to speak at a live event, and it was the Asthma Day event at Roxbury. I remember going up to Mesa and saying, "Hey, can I like have a speech? Can I like participate in this like event?" And he was like, "Yeah, of course." I remember when I first came to that event, I was the only young adult there, and I was very nervous because like I thought, oh wow, I was like a youth. Am I actually going to like bring any change? Will anyone actually try to listen to me? And I was very like apprehensive of what was going to come. But after I said my speech, I was brought upon so much support that I didn't think I had before. I realized that a lot of people are still willing to listen to youth leaders. And I think that's something that everyone needs to hear because people are thinking, oh, what if like I'm too young to bring about change? Like people are always just going to disagree with me. But no, you haven't even tried yet. You have to try before you come to those conclusions. I also want to go into depth on like what I was speaking about in that event. I when that event in that speech actually when I was like writing up that speech, I was thinking about how my grandparents were already investing in sustainability, and they would often I don't know how to say it, but like compress boxes and like plastics so we use the space when like storing the stuff we don't need anymore. And I think that's something we take for granted because oftentimes we just use things, toss bottles into the trash can, but we never really think do those plastics actually get recycled? And the least you could really do is to limit or restrict how much plastic you put into a recycling bin because oftentimes most of that plastic actually goes to landfills instead of being recycled. And the more landfills that are being filled, the less space we're going to have. Not to mention that a lot of these landfills are being filled in minority communities. And that's another sad thing that we had to realize that not everyone gets the same environmental protection.
Yeah, you've mentioned a couple of things that, starting from the speech, the powerful speech that you gave at the World Asthma Day celebration in Roxbury, which was very motivating from the way you presented it as a young person. And as you rightly mentioned, is that you were the only youth keynote speaker in that, and it brought a big impact. And it's amazing that, sometimes we have this potential in ourselves, but we don't realize that we do have that. And I'm so glad that you came up and said you wanted to practice your public speaking skills, because at the Youth Action Collaborative, again, one of the organizing skills that we're learning or, empowering young people with is public speaking. Yeah, so I'm glad that, went well and you had an avenue to use your voice and share about what you think to the rest of the participants who are there, and everyone was gotten to a chance to listen to your speech. And I have to emphasize it's on social media for anyone who wants to listen to that. You go to our channels at Clean Water Action, and you will find Christina's speech, which is very powerful and motivating. You also did mention something about plastics, which I have to mention that we do have a campaign at Clean Water Action called Rethink Disposable or Zero Waste Campaign. And plastics, as you said, it's been a big menace, and it's something that it's choking our oceans. For instance, not all the plastics are being recycled. So for anyone who wants to learn more about our campaign, just go to our website at Clean Water Action and learn about our zero waste campaign. So Christina, apart from some of those skills that you've mentioned and what you're passionate about, you also said that you are taking part in the Youth Action Collaborative. That was the first program that we started this year, and you did a wonderful job during that cohort. And currently you're also involved in the Youth Action Collaborative that is going on at the Malden High School. Can you briefly talk about your role, any other skills that you picked from the Youth Action Collaborative in the first semester that you were taking part, and what capacity you are taking part at the moment, and how that has been impactful, for example, since you started taking part in this journey?
Yeah, of course. Last year, I signed up for the Youth Action Collaborative program in the fall semester. Actually, no, the spring semester. And I was going head and first thinking that, oh, we're gonna be writing research projects. We're gonna be going to like all these protesting and all these like interesting things. But I didn't realize that when I first came into the Youth Action Collaborative, I didn't expect the amount of support and the amount of like education that we're going to get. We were every single time we went there to the meetings, we would learn about new things. For example, about the amount of lead in our pipes in households. We learned about power mapping, about what you can't recycle, about what you could. For example, did you know that like used pizza boxes cannot be recycled if there's oil inside? That's like one of the most shocking things I've learned.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, that's crazy. But anyways, I also not it wasn't just the environmental aspect. I also learned to grow and connect with other peers in the program, because I also realized that making environmental change does not solely rely on one individual. It requires the passion and the connection and the teamwork from a group of passionate leaders. If you do it by yourself, there's only one voice, but with multiple people, that is encouragement for others to join your campaign, your ideas. It is the support that you need. And that's something that was a key takeaway for me when I was in the Youth Action Collaborative program. I also want to mention that this year I'm returning back as an alumni, Youth Action Collaborative alumni, and I'm very proud to say that I am happy to returning back after such a long break, and that I'm also helping out the future members of our future generation towards environmental change. Although I can't say it can never be the same as the first semester, I could say that I'm looking very much forward to what the future members have to offer and how we could grow and connect together.
Thank you so much again for coming back, Christina. And we do so much appreciate the contribution that you bring to the program, and, especially empowering young people like your age mates and your colleagues in high school. I like what you mentioned, that you can not do it alone. We can't do it alone. We all have to, work collaboratively, because you all care about the same issues. And you did mention a couple of things that we work on at Clean Water. You mentioned lead in drinking water, and that's a campaign that we do, especially in mold and other environmental justice communities, because they are the ones who impacted the most. Yeah, so for more information, or anyone who wants to learn about our lead in drinking water campaign, you can go to our website at Clean Water Action and learn more about what we do around that campaign. Yeah, so there's nothing that we do in this world that doesn't have challenges. So in your journey, despite you being a young person, so perhaps are there like other challenges that you've faced in your journey in environmental activism, and how have you navigated around addressing some of those?
Yeah, there were a couple of like pitfalls in my activist journey. And I remember when I would tell my mom about how much I wanted to bring justice and bring like environmental awareness. And she was like saying, "Oh, there's enough people out there doing that kind of work. You could aspire to be something even more." And I remember feeling a little discouraged. But in the end, I also realized that what I was living my own life. I wasn't going to let my mom live my life. So yeah, I hope my mom is not listening to this. But there was another challenge I did face. In the middle of my in the program, I was out of school for a couple of months due to a medical leave. So my journey was cut in half, and I felt a bit disconnected from joining and like being a part of the YAC, and also just engaging in the environment in general. However, when I came back, I also came back to give that speech, and that was something that motivated me. When I came back, I also received a youth leadership award back in the fall, or this fall actually. And I remember being very proud of that moment, because at that moment I was feeling my absolute worst. I was feeling like I was disconnected with my community. I felt like I didn't have support. I felt like no one was listening or hearing me. But when Omessa emailed me about it, I felt like I was remembering back when I did contribute to the environment, when I did engage my thoughts into how our world could be a better place. And I think that was really all I needed to get me back on track, to get me back to thinking I can do this. I can bring change, and I can connect with other people who are just as concerned as me. So that award wasn't just about me, like, of making a lot of accomplishments. It was also about me once being great, and now, right now, I can also achieve greatness. So I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of how it reminded me of everything I've accomplished, and also is now currently a guide towards me to becoming better.
I'm so glad that the award that you received, the Youth Leadership Award, had an impact on you and meant something to you. Because I want to share the great news is that, all the challenges that you say you face, the world is not without challenges, but we always bounce back. And I'm glad you came back and you didn't give up. You continued your journey where you left. You just kept going because that resilience is what we need. The journey is never easy, but it's just so important to know that we are resilient. I hope your mom gets to listen to this and get to know about your story and the exciting things that you are doing. There's definitely not enough people who out here, doing a lot of environmental conservation and trying to care for our planet. So there can never be enough. So we have to keep doing whatever we can at whichever moment we can to make sure that we are living a sustainable planet for the future generation, not just for us, but also for the future generations. Yeah, I'm glad that you did mention that you came back to give the speech during our fall celebration. Can you briefly talk about that? Like at that moment, getting to the new audience and, standing there and doing your speech once more, doing an excerpt of the speech while receiving your Youth Leadership Award. Is there a way it has contributed to your journey at the moment?
Yeah, so in the fall, there was the celebration in honor of people who have contributed to, was it the Clean Action program, right?
People who have been engaged in, contributing positively towards environmental conservation. There were like different categories. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a celebration of all the people who have contributed greatly. And I remember that it was this huge audience in like very formal attire, and everyone was excited, everyone was mingling. And then when we got to like listen to the stories of people who were getting awards, I remember feeling very connected and heartfelt to people who were talking about their stories, about how they contributed. Like some people, they contribute their entire lives, their entire, like all their efforts into into environmental sustainability. And I felt so proud of the people who were like making those contributions. And in return, when I was up there speaking, I remember feeling like very nervous, but then Omessa gave me a nod, and like some other people were very supportive. I didn't even know some of those people, and they were just like smiling and nodding at me, and I felt very, very supported. In that speech, I gave an excerpt of the poem, and I remember that I gave that poem as heartfelt and emotional as I did when I was at the Roxbury event, at the World Asthma Day event. And it was a very emotional day for me because not only was I up there with everyone else receiving an award, but I was also there making a path for my voice to guide people, making a path for me to connect and to engage in environmental sustainability. I don't know how else to describe it other than the fact that I got to connect with a lot of people that I didn't know. Even after I finished giving out the poem, there were people going up to me and saying, "You did an amazing job." Someone even said like, "I almost cried when you talked about seagulls giving cigarette butts to their young because of the amount of pollution we have in our beaches." And I was as awestruck as I was about that information. I was also very emotionally affected that someone could be as concerned, as motivated to bring change. And I felt very connected at that time. I really want to thank Amessa for helping guiding me through all these paths and all these challenges. But in the end, I was so glad that I was able to have an opportunity to speak for my word receivable. Yeah.
Yes, your voice definitely matters. The voices of young people matter. And I'm glad that that worked out for you and that your voice actually had an impact on everyone that was there, and people felt motivated by listening to your story. Yeah, we are coming to the end of this. We could have this conversation again sometime, but quickly, how do you envision, the future of the planet, and what role do you think or see young people playing in shaping it? And lastly, is there any kind of advice you like to give, to your peers, other students who might think of being involved but don't know where to start? And given that you are someone who started from the young age.
Yeah, for the future, the very, very least that I wish would happen would be that for people to stop believing that there is no problem with our environment, because there is. There are people who are denying the fact that global warming is going to bring extreme climate changes, and some people just believe that warmer climates will just mean the fact that you could grow oranges in Canada. That's not the case. That is more than just having warmer climates. It's about having tsunamis, having like environmental changes in every single ecosystem. It's about the fact that our sea levels are going to rise. It's about the fact that many animals are going to lose their habitats. Once people are more aware of our future, of how our future is dwindling in terms of environmental health, then we can start to realize what solutions we could bring, especially in terms of policies and what government acts that could help us bring a better future. For my advice to peers, let me just say that I also started from almost nothing. However, I've also found people who are willing to support me, who are willing to teach me and guide me through things that I probably would not be able to do by myself. I've had like a lot of connections. I was also a student representative for the city council's green fair, and the reason I was able to get there was because I had support from my National Honor Society. They referred me to talk with the mayor. They referred me to talk with, and then the mayor referred me to talk with like the environmental specialists and all of that. So yeah, I was engaged in a lot of things, and my advice is to go out there, go into the world, meet new people, learn new things. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, because once you make mistakes, you learn not to make them. But even if you keep making mistakes, you're always one step closer, not one step back.
Yes, for every young person that is listening to this, go out there, go to the world, make mistakes, and learn from those mistakes, because everyone makes mistakes, and that's how we learn. Thank you so much for those powerful words, Christine, and for sharing your story. And it's always amazing to keep you being involved in the journey, especially through the Youth Action Collaborative that you're taking part in at the moment as a youth alumni coordinator. Let me say so. And yeah, we're glad and lucky to have you on our team and to keep working with you. I'll say keep doing what you are doing, because you're already excelling at it. Yeah. So thanks so much again, Christina, for your time. I really appreciate you spending some time to share about your story.
Yeah, I really appreciate my time having an audience to then tell them of my journey. Thank you for guiding me through it.
This is the Climate Voices podcast, and I'm your host, Omesa Mukaya. Until next time, enjoy the listen. Thank you.